Well,
That's what I'm navigating.
we don't give advice to other people's navigations
We don't.
unless they ask for some.
We just listen.
We just acknowledge
We
and
just listen.
nod our head.
Okay. Nice. Good work. Although I did offer you a solution to yours.
He did
The push thingy. Yeah. I don't know.
But it wasn't a very good solution. That'd be like me just like saying, hey,
You didn't ask,
but
I offered.
I've got the perfect, you need a daily planner.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug.
Hey, buddy.
Eddie. What are you doing, dude?
I'm just getting amped for today's show.
Me too. I'm excited about today.
I know, the mailbag. We're opening up the mailbag.
We're going to see what kind of questions we get from the listeners around. This is pretty cool, dude. I'm psyched about this one.
Yeah, I took a little sneak peek. Some of them are great questions. So
Pretty good. Yeah, I agree. We are, changing up a little bit.
yeah, a little change of pace.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I'm excited for it.
Me too.
Super stoked. Should we dive right in?
Let's dive right in.
Let's dive right in. Let's do it. What do you got?
First question comes from Tom R. in North Carolina. Hey guys, I've been listening to the show for the past few months and I'm hooked. No pun intended.
Tom R. Love that guy.
You silly guy. You guys have been all over for your annual trips, so I've got to ask, what's the best fishing spot you've visited and why? I'm looking for inspiration for my own trips and would love to hear what spots stand out to you and your crew.
Great question. We have been all around, pretty much Colorado. This is where we mostly take place. But we've been up in Wyoming, and soon to be up in Montana. But I know my answer, Ed. I know what my favorite spot was. For one of our trips, one of my favorite trips that stands out to me was when we were up in Redstone, which is over near Aspen, kind of like Glenwood Springs, Aspen area. And I don't know, I certainly remember, and I think you remember too, that was one of my best days ever of fishing.
I can never tell because you always say they're epic. Every day is epic with you. So
that is my
they'll
one
blend together.
Yeah, I do use that. But it might be my favorite day of fishing. Certainly it was one of them, was when you and I were on Avalanche Creek, and we bushwhacked back in, and it was an incredible day. And so that was a really, really great time, great day. We bushwhacked, we climbed a waterfall, we caught the Grand Slam in like the first hour we fished, the Colorado Trout Grand Slam. But that was a great trip in terms of where we stayed. We had access to a whole lot of different fishing. We fished the Roaring Fork. We fished the Frying Pan. We had other creeks and stuff around there. That was a great trip with a lot of good access to fishing, and definitely one of my faves. Because you got big rivers, you got bushwhack hiking rivers, creeks, you got it all. It was good. That was a phenomenal trip.
That was one of my favorite days as well. Avalanche Creek was awesome. I love that style of fishing, of getting up and out into the middle of nowhere. Feels like you're the only person who's ever seen a river, and the size of the fish does get a little smaller, but they get a lot prettier in my opinion too. So I love getting back into creeks like that for sure.
We caught some decent fish though. I mean, but yeah, you're right. Yeah. And I tell you, that's the thing. We didn't see another fisherman.
Right.
Including the rest of our crew. They took a different trail. We didn't see them all day. Which tends to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Sometimes that happens. A couple people peel off and you don't see them until dark.
Yep.
But that was a goodie.
For me, it's hard to say what my favorite was. I tend to drift back to kind of favorite memories on trips, but I'm sure, in
Right.
fact, I know there's another question on this list about some of my favorite memories and stuff. But one place that I've gone back to since we've gone on a trip was when we went up to Creed, and it's got a really cool valley that goes up behind the city. That was an old mining valley, and just has a really cool creek that runs through it. And I've taken the family back there and gone up and camped, and you can get back into the nowhere where there are ATVs and stuff that drive back there on tours and things like that. But it's a Forest Service road, so there's little campsites all along the creek that are very secluded. There's moose, which I always love to see moose. I'm sure there's other scarier animals as well. But I love that up there. It's also just one of the prettier parts, the beginning of probably the prettiest part, in my opinion, of Colorado. Kind of opens up into that western Colorado. And you can get onto some bigger rivers up there as well. So I really enjoyed that area. It's kind of the first one that came to mind when it came up. But we are currently in the process of compiling kind of all of our itineraries and other itineraries that we've done outside of our guys fishing weekend. And so we'll be kind of posting those in a database for people to look at and get inspiration and ideas to go and fish as well. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes, indeed. Lots of good trips and stuff in those. So we'll be sharing that with our community for sure.
Definitely. All right. Next question comes from one of the community we have on Instagram. That comes from Kyle at the Trout Legend. That's his handle. And his question for us was, at what amount of time did you feel like an adequate angler? And yeah, and as all good guys do, he went ahead and answered it for us as well. But for him, it was in his 6th year. So that's the question.
Wow. God, there's days I still don't feel like an adequate angler. I guess we all have those days where I'm getting snagged in the tree because I'm not paying attention or whatever. I think with adequacy, definitely it probably was. There was a shift in time when it wasn't necessarily about if you were going to catch fish. It became, I can pretty much go to most rivers and catch fish.
Right.
And so I think at that point, maybe you become an adequate angler. So I don't know. I guess for me, it was probably, God, I don't know. I would say somewhere between probably 5 and 10 years before I felt like I could regularly catch fish. And I guess that at that point in time, that was the goal, right? You want to catch fish.
Right.
And so, there's always been that philosophical thing of, do I go hunt big fish? Do I go, you know what I mean? So for me, I think it was more about learning how to read water, how to use what technique at different times. If fish weren't hitting, why? And so I think there's a sense of like when you become adequate, when you do it long enough, and it takes a while. Honest to God, it takes a while. I got skunked a whole hell of a lot, in my first couple of years of fishing. And so it takes a while to become, I think, an adequate fisherman. So yeah, I don't know if I can remember the exact time.
Yeah.
The exact moment when I felt like it.
I think it's a hard question because I definitely have skills that I became adequate and competent at certain points that I think kind of level set you for anywhere you go, right? So like your casting skill is something that you can carry to any type of fishing, for the most part. The rods get a little different in their weights and how much effort it takes to move some of that line. But, I think I became a competent caster, relatively early on. But then every river type that you go to is like a whole new adventure. I mean, I go to Big Water. I was just, on the last episode, we were talking about going down to Taneycomo and
Right.
Branson, Missouri. And that's a totally different fishing style. And had I not had a guide and just gone down to where we waded in below the dam, I would have felt like a totally inadequate fisherman. We didn't catch anything, had one strike, and it was just like one of those days where you're like, man, this sucks.
Right.
And it was good fishing, but it was just like, man, this is tough stuff.
Right.
And so there are definitely times when I don't even feel like an adequate angler. And I know I'll feel that same way when I get on some saltwater stuff as well. So I think it's somewhat situational, but some of those basic skills of casting, knowing how to tie knots on your own, things like that, I would say those generally happened earlier on, just through learning. And I think you can speed up that process of figuring out how to get those basic skills by spending time taking those lessons, going to a local casting fly shop, do a casting class, or go to a casting school, or spend a little time, go up to Margot and Lola that we've had on the show and do one of their fly tying or fly fishing classes, learn how to cast, tie knots, read water, things like that. You could speed up that process, but then I always think it's an endless process of feeling like a beginner again.
Right. And I think that, when I think of adequacy in fly fishing, it's probably got to be that sense of, I have the confidence to know that I could show up no matter what kind of fishing it is. I may not know the details, but because of, the length of time I've been doing this, it won't take me very long to figure out the details. Do you know what I mean? Like, even, like you say, like when we go bone fishing, I've chucked streamers on really windy lakes. Granted, my streamers are probably a little bit smaller than what I'm fishing for, but I know wind is a big issue. And so I've cast in wind before and know what it takes. So yeah, like you say, like the casting and those kinds of things. And that's what I think. I think it's about bringing a confidence to a new situation where I'm going to feel like a beginner, but I have the background and the skills and the understanding of what it takes to be successful in fly fishing. And so maybe that's what adequacy is. Because I feel like I could probably go do most fly fishing adventures and different kinds. And I may suck at first, but I'll figure it out pretty quick,
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good question, though. That's a good question.
All right. Our next question comes from Chris in Buffalo. His question is, hey guys, I'm a huge fan of what you guys have going on with your annual fishing trips. I'd love to organize something similar for my own group of friends, but I'm struggling to know where to start. Do you have any tips on planning a successful fishing weekend? What do you focus on to make it memorable time for everyone involved?
Lot to unpack there. There's a lot. Speaking from experience, there's a lot. Yes. When I think back to when we first started doing this as first timers, it was really, I think the focal point was, where do we want to go, and finding a place that offered fishing, different spots of fishing, so you're not doing the same fishing every day. That was a big thing for us. So when we went, it started out as like, we're just going to go fish a couple of days. I think it was like 3 nights, 2 days. We fished hard. And we did a boat day where we fished a lake. We rented a boat from a local marina. We were up in Grand Lake. And then we had a day on the river. So, and we were novices back then. I mean, it was, that was 25 years ago. So, the guys I were with, we were spin fishing on the lake mostly. Although I was the only one who caught a fish on the lake, and I caught it in my fly rod
I
after
know. Jeez, we hear this
Bake
story
busted my rod.
every year. We're
Just in
so
case
proud of
anybody
you that
hasn't.
you caught that fish. Get over it.
Yes, that little fish that we ended up chucking it in dumpster. So I think that I think the starting point is finding a good place that offers some variety of different fishing around it. Because that was our whole purpose is fishing. So that was the key for us. And we didn't go too far. We only ventured, an hour and a half up into the mountains. So it was good. You felt like you got away.
Yeah. There is a lot to unpack with this question because the end of it is how do you make it memorable?
Memorable, right?
For everybody. I think if it was more of a question of like what are some places to start in general, I think finding the time to do it is the hardest part. And getting people on board and selling people that they should take 4 days out of their busy life to do this. But how to make it memorable, I think one of the most important things in the way that ours started was making it something that everybody felt like they could accomplish, whether it was financially, skill wise, distance, make it enjoyable in general. I think guys, when you get them together, they find ways to make things memorable. But
right.
I think if you can remove a lot of the stress of, I can't afford that, I can't make time for that, I am not good enough at doing X, Y, and Z to feel like I'm going to feel like a loser in front of everybody. If you can remove a lot of those friction points for people, I think that frees up a lot of mental bandwidth to make it memorable. You could do a trip to, I don't know, the middle of a cornfield and do it and fish out of a ditch. If you're with if guys that you enjoyed spending time with, it's going to be memorable.
Right.
And so
Right.
my advice would be, don't feel like you have to go out and book the $10,000 week trip and convince your buddies to go on it, and that's the way it's going to be the most memorable thing. Or don't feel like you have to go chase giant sailfish, and if you don't catch a sailfish, it's not going to be worthwhile. I think make it approachable for everybody, and the rest will kind of fall in place.
Yep. And that was a huge thing for us was, affordability, like all that kind of stuff. DIY. We planned, the meals we were going to eat and cook. And when you make for, spaces like that, when you're cooking your own meals, the memories flow, dude. They come right with the conversation, the jokes, the stuff, right? I mean, and that's the thing. Like you go to a $10,000 lodge and all your meals are being made for you, and you're sitting in this fine dining. It's that's not what our trip is, right? Yeah. So to your point, that it's like, and I think that's a great, a great place to start. Find a place that has some different kinds of fishing you can do, and like a central location where you rent a VRBO or whatever. And you're on your way, so, and getting the right dudes. That's important.
Yep. Best of luck, Chris. You'll make it happen. All right. The next question comes from David in Florida. Hey guys, thanks for the weekly laughs and insights. I have to ask, what's the funniest or most memorable mishap that happened during a guy's fishing weekend? Every group has those moments, and I'd love to hear what stood out for all of you over the years.
Yes, we definitely have those moments. It's the ones that you're able to share, willing to share. But yeah, there are two that come to mind for me, and there was the time your dad, Bake and I were fishing. I think we were up on Elk Creek above Steamboat, up by Hans Peak Lake and up in that area, and we were fishing the elk. And Bake and I were kind of walking, and Joe, your dad, was up on the top of this hill, and trying to get his way down to the creek. And he slipped and fell and rolled down the side of his hill. I'm going to say like 20 or 30 feet. The dude just kept rolling, and like landed in the creek. And it was the funniest thing in the world. You know, after you're like, oh my God, are you okay? We laughed. We still laugh over watching Joe roll down the side of the hill.
Oh, man.
Poor Joe. Yeah, that was definitely a funny moment. That was a good one. And then there was the infamous rock fight where we have a tradition of sneaking up on a guy who's fishing a hole and just taking a big giant rock and chucking it right down in his hole and just like wrecking it. And we were on the Blue River on the way home on Sunday, so I think we were kind of less like fucking done with each other, whatever, you know, like fishing before we could get home. And somebody did that, and then somebody just got pissed and picked up a rock and chucked it back at him. And there was like, we were split between like 3 or 4 guys on each side and just chucking rocks at each other and trying to hit and splash water. We were trying to throw the rock close enough to where somebody would get wet. And then I think people got hit by rocks, and it ended in a storm of laughter, and being pretty soaking wet. That was how it ended, and it was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Those were a couple that I remember.
The one that came to mind for me first was a few years back. We were up in Jelm, Wyoming, which if you look it up on a map, I don't even know if it comes up, but it's in southern Wyoming, south of Laramie, just over the border really from Colorado. And we thought this was going to be like one of the best Airbnbs that we ever rented. It was right on river right there, and private, basically backed right up to BLM and Forest Service land, and so it was like a giant long stretch of private water. Well, it turned out to be a year where we did not get a lot of rain and water, and so the river ended up being really low. And we're also not known for having great map reading skills, apparently. And so we had figured that there was a strip of river that went around to a road kind of south of where we were staying, and that we would send one group kind of coming in from the south, and we would fall in from the north and then meet in the middle and escape out of the river canyon together. And it was super canyony stretch as well. I should mention that. So
super canyony.
Super canyony. So we thought we had a plan, and we set off on our ways. So it was Reid, Rob, and I were on the north moving to south team. And we started going, and Rob's so much fun to be with in the backcountry because he just gives you wildlife biology lessons the whole way through. So we're learning about pine trees, flowers, birds, and we're just aimlessly walking. Poop. We're just aimlessly walking, listening to Rob tell us about this. And so, every once in a while we'd stop and fish, and nobody was catching anything, and we just kind of felt like we had to keep walking because the river was just so low, and we were like, well, we'll find something back here that no one's ever fished before. And we kept walking and walking and walking and walking. And we never ran into anybody. And we're like, dang, like, where are we?
Where are we? Where are they?
Where are they?
Because we were supposed to hook up, right?
So we keep walking, and we finally, about 2 or 3 hours of just literally, finally we stopped fishing. We just kept walking. Like 2 or 3 hours after walking, we walked to where they would have dropped into the river, and we never passed anybody. And we were like, you got to be kidding me. These guys were supposed to be here. They were supposed to pick us up. What on earth? Like, started freaking out. We didn't have cell phone service or anything down in this canyon. And so eventually
Nobody
we're
had
just
water.
like, nobody, yeah, at this point
We
we were out of
drank all
water.
our water. 'Cause
All
we
of
were,
our granola bars, we were
when we
out.
get there, they'll be there waiting for us. Yeah, nothing.
So we're like, well, we got to hike out. And, looking at the map, we're like, well, it's about the same distance back to the house the way we came. And we can either go up the river or hike up over the hill to the road. And we're like, well, we'll just hike up over. It had to have been the steepest, worst hill ever to walk out of the river on. We were dying. Literally, like, we had taken our waders off. Heat exhaustion, waders off.
We just stopped. Yeah, we had to take waders off because we were so hot, dude. It was so bad. Oh my God. It was so...
Looking back, it was one of those times where we really probably could have been in some serious trouble. I don't think the guys ever ended up making it down to that point because it was so steep. I think they ended up just fishing back by the...
They did. They turned around and went back to the Airbnb. Yeah.
But the funniest part of the whole thing was we're walking out, trying to get back to the house, and talking and just bitching about the whole thing. And all of a sudden, you hear like ping, and Rob's like, "Hey, the weather in Bailey, Colorado is actually they're getting dumped on there." Like, "Oh, that's crazy." And it'd be like ping and. Oh, hey, Sawyer says, "What's up, guys?" And we're like, "Oh, that's so cool of him." And we keep walking it and ping. And then we're like, wait a second. You have cell service? Call these guys and get them over here to pick us up. And Rob was just so aloof to the whole situation. He was just marching along, just so happy to be out in nature, explaining the world to us. And yeah, so... that was one of my favorite, just recent memories that makes me laugh.
Yeah, that was definitely at the moment not so awesome, but funny as hell in the aftermath. I thought I was gonna die. Yeah, you'll create those in a laundry list of them, and that's probably the best part about GFW and the thing that gives back the most
For sure.
are the memories, because we rehash those things every year. Good stuff. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, thanks for letting us relive some of the memories.
Yeah. So good.
Matt R. from Colorado. Hello, I've noticed in your recent episodes that you talk about how the vibe of the trips has changed over the years from more competitive to more laid back. How has that evolution been for you all? Do you miss the competition or do you prefer the relaxed approach? Thanks for all the great listens. I really appreciate it.
Good question, Matt R. Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely, I don't miss the competition. And I'll say this much too. I mean, the fishing game that you kind of created and brought to it is fun. That's like a more chill, relaxed competition mode when we decide, hey, you want to play the fishing game? We usually are, after we've gotten our fill of doing some hardcore fishing and we're kind of chilling out, we'll play the fishing game a little bit. But the hardcore competition, I don't miss at all. I think I've just outgrown that. And I think also the competition comes every night when we play cards. And so we do get still that feel of kind of like the competition around the card table, but not out on the river. So I actually, appreciate it way more, because I think now we're more into helping each other out and helping each other try to hook up with fish. And I was thinking about that on my recent plane ride about the amount of fish that I've caught out of other people's holes when I'm trying to teach them how to fish. And but it kind of dick move that is, and why my friends keep me around and let me go fishing with them.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have any friends.
But we've morphed into this kind of chiller vibe where I'd much rather help somebody out who's not catching fish or not understanding why. That seems to be more important now.
Yeah, I think the competition definitely can lead to some dark things. It's it's in our male DNA to have competition and figure out who the best angler is and stuff like that. But at some point, it does become it goes beyond just competition. It can, I guess. It doesn't necessarily have to. And if you do enjoy the competition part of it, try and keep it fun as much as possible. But I think we do enjoy the more laid back approach to it all. Like Reid just said, we have our fishing game that I made up, and that is more of a way for you to be able to fish side by side in a river more than anything, and justify, fishing next to each other and spending time with one another than it is about the competition.
Taking turns making casts, and
Right.
it's more, and that's where it kind of stemmed from too, was that idea of like, let's fish together.
Right. And I think it's also a great way to kind of learn about how other people fish. There is some benefit to fish together, and that's one of the problems with fly fishing. If you're not on a boat together, and even if you are on a boat, you're a lot of times not looking at the other person cast. But it is good to see other people,
right,
how they go about reading the water, casting, the drifts and things like that. That's how I learn the most, is just watching others.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, it's not really about the competition for us anymore. It's about the time together. And we found for us that a while ago, the competition got in the way of that. So,
right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's a difference too between competition like we used to have, and gamifying, that term has come around of late, and it's like, how do you gamify, make something fun, turn it into a game, not necessarily like a hardcore competition. There's a difference between those two things, I think. So yeah, definitely we have a much more relaxed approach as some of us are getting up there in age.
right. Let's see. All right. Next question comes from my mom. What do you want for Christmas?
Nice.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Sweet.
I suck at answering this question. I don't know if other people do too, but it's hard to make a Christmas list of gifts. I didn't realize how hard it was as a kid.
Yeah. Well, once you get past certain ages, it's just about, what do I need? Because I don't want these stupid things sitting around anymore. I'm not a collector of dumb stuff I don't need. So I always need a new rod. Always. Specifically, Mom, if you're listening, a 10-carat rod. Yeah.
Well, I also know that the rod that we have our eyes on, and we're just waiting for the phone call that it's ready for shipping, is the 2-weight, the 6-piece 2-weight that Wild Orca is putting together.
Right. Yes.
Can't wait to get my hands on that, because that'll be perfect for some of the trips we're trying to do next year.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
I'll have to get back to you, Mom. I'm not very good.
You need a little bit more time to think that one through.
I need a lot more time to think that through. But thanks for the question, Mom.
Nice.
All right. Next question comes from Jordan in Austin, Texas. Hi, guys. Fishing Weekly. I really admire the way you all have kept your friendship strong over the years. You don't see that kind of loyalty and closeness all that often, and it's inspiring to hear. What advice would you give guys like me who want to maintain close friendships through all the changes that come with life?
Ooh.
Yeah, Jordan gets the award for the heaviest question, I think, on this list. But I think a question everybody wants to know the answer to.
Most thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there is, when you figure out, and this, over the years for us, I think there's been a lot of people who have attended our Guys Fishing Weekend. Not all of them were great fits, right? I mean, there were, that didn't end up, that have gone but aren't anymore. So I think there's something to the idea of you finding the right people, certainly. And then it takes a concerted effort and a commitment to those relationships as much as it takes a commitment to any other important relationship in your life. And I think that a lot of guys think about it in turn, they're like, oh, buddies, whatever. But to do this and maintain a loyalty and a closeness takes a commitment and a concerted effort to do that. And I think that, when you get guys who are all on that same page, it's, that's a big part of the battle's done. Like, you're all committed to doing it. And then I think that's the key factor to find, the right guys who want to make that kind of a commitment to it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think also, I'm going to preface this with, I'm a guy and can really only speak to male friendships.
Right.
I think guys really need to build meaningful, close relationships. I think guys need things to do. I don't know if it's just to take our mind off of getting out of our heads and being open around one another and kind of having like that fidget spinner that you can have, like that fishing kind of creates, removes the monkey mind a little bit, or if it's just the memories that you create with one another, doing adventures, getting outdoors, the mishaps that happen, things like that. I think that's how you really truly build meaningful relationships with people. I think, I've been out of college now for 15 plus years, and I'm pretty sure that if I went back and ran into anybody from college that I had some of those meaningful memories with, it would be like those 15 years hadn't passed. And so I think it's all about creating those memories that you can talk about with one another, reconnect. They help rekindle that relationship. And so if you can make a concerted, intentional effort to actually make those memories together and go do those trips, it doesn't have to be a full thing. It can be, helping somebody move in a way that's not a great memory, but it could be something as simple as that, as, being the first person to welcome somebody into their new home or whatever. Those things matter, and just being intentional about that. And it takes time. And don't feel like just because somebody drifted away through those changes in life that they aren't still close friends.
Right. Good. That's good advice. I like that. Yeah. And I think, the key is that intention, being intentional. You have to. You can't sit back and wait for it to just naturally happen, because with dudes, that's not always the case. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that intentionality is important. Good question.
All right, let's do one more here. This one comes from Luke in Washington. Hey guys, you guys seem to have some pretty epic fishing stories, but I'm curious, what was the toughest day of fishing you had as a group? I imagine there must have been days when nothing went right. I'd love to hear any tips you have for staying positive in those tough times.
Ooh, wow. You got anything right off the top of your head?
Well, I just sort of told a funny story about that day. That was a pretty tough day of fishing. Let me think of another tough day of fishing I know we've had days where we've gone out and been on a river that was just kind of totally blown out, or super chalky or whatever, and you just nothing goes right. You try everything. You change flies. You try and get down. You try and put it on top of the water. And I think in those moments, there's something about a day of fishing where you have to catch that one fish to make it a good day of fishing. But on the days that that doesn't happen and there's just no hope, and you drove all this way, the river sucks, it's just not going to happen. I still think the best way to make any day of fishing great is just lift your head up and look at what's around, look at where you are, look at the horizon and see the different vista or the mountain off in the distance or the other side of the lake,
Right.
whatever it is, and just be appreciative that you're able to be out there in the first place and that it's even a possible thing to do. So that's kind of my go-to move when everything's going wrong, is just sit on a rock and lift my head up a little bit. So
Yeah, I know that there's there's also some solace in going through something like that with somebody else. You and I had recently had, when we were up in Grand Mesa, and before all the other guys got up there, we were chasing something that wasn't happening. And we were
Right.
fishing in spots that I'm not even sure had fish in them. We were just driving around. Oh, there's an open lake. It was one of those days that was, we didn't see a fish. And so I think that it was helpful in those things. Like, yeah, we look around, lift up. We were in an amazingly beautiful place, and exploring. And sometimes that happens when you explore, but having somebody else there with you, definitely makes it a lot easier, when you're both feeling the pain, and I think that almost there's an accountability for, you almost feel like it's your job to help pick up the other guy. You know what I mean? When you see somebody getting kind of down or grumpy or pissy or whatever, you crack the joke. You remember the funny story. You bring something up that'll make them laugh. And it almost becomes your role, right?
Right.
And so having people around, and we have those guys around for sure, that it's almost hard to remember moments that we've had such, like crappy days of fishing, because
Right.
we're filling it with other things. And so, yeah, that's a good question. Now,
Yeah.
when I think about those times, and you're trying to think about the times that things didn't go well, that's good.
Yeah. Worst comes to worst, just throw a rock in someone else's hole and tell them it was because you threw a rock, not because the river sucks. So
Right.
Well, thanks everybody for these questions. That's awesome, and we love getting them. If you want to submit questions for the next time we open the mailbag, you can send them over to mailbag@guysfishingweekend.com, or reach out to us on our socials or reply to one of our newsletter emails. However you can find a way to get a hold of us, we'll take that question in and add it to the list.
Love the questions. This is awesome. This is super fun trying to
It is,
remember
yeah.
stuff and reflecting back. It's cool. Yeah, this has been a blast. What a hoot.
Well, how about we move on to our celebrations and navigations?
Yeah, good. What are you celebrating, Ed?
I am celebrating. It's a little bit past now. This should probably come out a month after, but I passed my 10 years of sobriety a little bit ago. So
Congrats, brother.
yeah, man.
Nice.
So
that's
pretty
huge.
cool.
It's a
Round
huge
numbers are
achievement,
fun.
man. Right?
So
Round numbers are fun. That's fantastic, dude. Really proud of you. That's a lot to celebrate.
yeah.
What's the best part
funny.
about it? What's the best part about reaching it?
The best part?
Yeah, what's the best part about it all?
I mean, I don't know.
It's hard.
It's
Tough.
that is hard. Well, the
All right, give
hard
me
part,
one thing that's awesome. There's a lot of best things.
There's a lot of good things. One good thing is just you feel great in the morning. That's one thing.
Yep.
I don't know. There's probably a lot of things. I think it gets, at least for me, it's kind of gotten harder to be super proud of myself. 10 years feels just like it did during 9 years, and kind of just like it did during 8 years. At some point, it started becoming just the way it was. And so, but still an achievement nonetheless, and one that while it doesn't feel like that big of a deal, maybe, it's always worth patting yourself on the back for it because you know how big of a challenge it was at the beginning.
100%. Nope. Definitely worth a pat on the back, dude.
So,
Good work, man.
what about you? What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating the subbing. I've been subbing a bit. Yeah. Dude, it's great. And here's why. All right, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I feel like I'm really helping.
Okay.
So it gives me kind of a sense of like the office people, like when teachers reach out to me, they're like, hey, dude, can you sell? Like, they can trust me to teach, to do those things. And it's really kind of cool because I feel useful. As a teacher, I'm not sure I felt that way all the time. So yeah, so it's like it's been pretty cool in that realm. And like building relationships with the kids has been so much fun. You know, I get to be the goofy sub guy, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's been pretty fun and pretty cool, I gotta say. Early in it, it's been pretty good.
What's been your favorite lesson plan that someone's given you to do?
Oh my God, I sub for PE any day. All I do is hook up to the thing and spin tunes. Yeah. It's great. They just like, yeah, it's the best. She leaves great games for me to do, and then they just play, and I just like play DJ all day. It's awesome.
So your advice to your 20-year-old self would have been to come back as a PE teacher?
100%. Yes. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. No question. Yep. Don't even have to think about that one. PE teacher extraordinaire. What about navigations, Ed? What are you navigating?
Well, it's fall around here, and fall around here brings a lot of leaves, like a lot of leaves. And every year I never know how to tackle this problem because they got to fall for like 2 to 3 months total. Like, so you rake them once, and then the next week, it's like you never raked it all. It's crazy how many leaves there are here. It baffles my mind. So that's what I'm navigating. Last year we had a service where we raked them all to the edge, and somebody came by and just sucked them up, which was cool, really cool. Yeah. But then more leaves fell. Like all the trees around, the leaves fall at different times or something, because then another batch of bigger, heavier leaves fell then, and I was just like, man, I'm not going to pay another. I think it was like $100 to have somebody come by and suck them up. So then I had to rake those ones up by myself. So I'm struggling right now on what the best path forward is because my lawn is covered in leaves, and
I'm no botanist, so I can't explain the leaf dropping thing. If only Rob were here, he might be able to shed some light on this. But I will say this: I did see a tool that's like almost like one of those spreaders. Only it's like a vacuum that like sweeps up, like you push it. It's like a lawnmower basically that like, but it sucks them all up like a vacuum and puts them into the bundle, and then you just empty the thing into a bag. I don't know. Maybe you're in the market for one of those. Maybe. Spend the $50 on that thing instead of the $100 on the suck them up, and it'll make your job. Then you won't have to rake so much. Yeah.
I've never seen a professional leaf cleaner. I've never seen a professional leaf cleaner use a tool like that, so it can't be that good.
It can't be that good.
I think at the end of the day, it's just the manual labor of it all.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But
it is endless.
It's brutal.
And your gutters and fill. Yeah. Suckville, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just moved to Suckville and got elected mayor. That's you, Ed. The mayor of Suckville right now with leave.
Sitting mayor of Suckville. What are you navigating?
I'm navigating finding a rhythm to my life, Ed. We've talked about it in the past.
We have.
And it's not necessarily like what to do. I have plenty to do. But it's just like the rhythm of, a daily routine, like when I work out, of enough time to have fun, enough time to get shit done. So I feel like it's that it's choppy at best. My time. There's no rhythm. I'm trying to get into morning routines. I'm trying to get into, this and it's just like routines don't happen with unstructured time. So, you've told me, you've warned me. I'm in that finding a rhythm, and maybe it doesn't come. Maybe there is no rhythm to my life now, and becoming comfortable with choppy. It's going to be an ongoing battle for me.
It is.
Yeah.
I know.
So,
well,
that's what I'm navigating.
We don't give advice to other people's navigations.
We don't.
Unless they ask for some.
We just listen.
We just acknowledge and nod our head.
Nice. Good work. Although I did offer you a solution to yours.
He did.
The push thingy.
But it wasn't a very good solution. That'd be like me just like saying, hey,
you didn't ask,
I've got the perfect. You need a daily planner. One of those journals that you can write down hour by hour. And you'll solve this. So you just need to pick up one of those journals. Barnes and Noble or Amazon has them. So,
and there you go. There's my cheesy advice. Well, another good episode, brother. That was good. That was awesome. Fun. The mailbag. I love the mailbag. That was good.
Submit your questions. We want to do more of these. These are fun.
Please submit questions. Yeah, we love questions. Any questions, fishing related, guys fishing weekend related, whatever. What we do, what we can do.
Yep.
All right, buddy.
All right, man.
Good to see you.
We'll talk again soon.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.